Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Berry. Welcome once more to Miami Life, the show that takes a closer look at life right here in South Florida. Every week we tell you what's happening and what's on the minds of your friends and neighbors in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. First up, like it or not, hurricane season officially begins this Sunday. And this is the stat we should all know. 97% of tropical storms in the Atlantic form between June 1st and November 30th. And forecasters are expecting an active hurricane season, with NOAA predicting we could see up to 19 named storms. And Florida, as usual, is on high alert during hurricane season. And that makes it all the more important for you and your family to be prepared with supplies and an evacuation plan just in case. Now, too many communities across Florida know all too well the devastating impact these storms can have. One of them is Fort Pierce. It was hit by a tornado spawned by Hurricane Milton. CBS News Miami's Morgan Reiner went back to one of the hardest hit neighborhoods there on the Treasure Coast and found that people are still rebuilding their lives.
This is Carmen Guido's home in Fort Pierce. You'll notice the homes on either side of his are gone, wiped out by a series of tornadoes during Hurricane Milton in October.
In the whole course of the 25, 30 years I'm living down here, we must have had tornado warnings 1,000 times without any ever hitting.
It's why he chose to stay, on top of the fact that Milton was hitting the other coast of Florida.
First thing we heard was a big crash in the front bedroom. Something came through the top window.
Wheelchair bound, he didn't have many options. He stayed in his chair in the living room.
Something kept hitting the side of the house we were on, which has 2 windows.
Lucky doesn't even begin to describe how he feels making it through alive. As we head into the next hurricane season,
now I may think twice.
A sentiment Jackie Scott shares. She also chose to ride out the storm.
The big one hit, and that one wasn't so fine. That one was terrifying. All of a sudden, everything got really, really dark. I mean, it was so pitch black, and the noise.
She walked us to the spot where her mobile home used to be.
I want to cry. I love this park.
Deemed too damaged to repair, it's now an empty lot, like so many others.
This is where the tornado really did some of the most severe damage.
Michael Bass drove us through his community, where he says people are still working to fix damage to the homes that weren't plowed away. But it's the emotional damage Debbie Soares said is going to take the longest time to recover from. 6 people died in the tornadoes.
The loss of life. It was
I
sad,
watched.
and it's still taking its toll.
And a cloudy day like this one is enough to get the heart racing.
Hurricane season coming, scary. When you see the clouds getting dark, only because it's going to rain, you want to run in the house.
In Fort Pierce, Morgan Reiner, CBS News, Miami.
And that is just part of the story that Morgan is telling from Fort Pierce. She explores the trouble some residents are having putting their lives back together as part of our CBS News Miami special, Survive the Season, Hurricane 2025. Join Hurricane Specialist Ivan Cabrera and the Next Weather team for the 1-hour special. It has very important information for you and your family to help you be prepared. Watch Survive the Season, Hurricane 2025 on Sunday, June 1st at 8 p.m. on CBS right after 60 Minutes. All right, now to a follow-up story we first told you about last week. It's about property owners in Lauderdale Lakes facing 6-figure fines for code violations. Well, now the city attorney is criticizing 82-year-old Kenneth Bordeaux and his 80-year-old wife Mildred for accumulating $366,000 worth of liens. They own a duplex in Lauderdale Lakes, which is an investment property. A couple of weeks ago, they told CBS News Miami Investigates that they fixed violations for things like a broken window handle and cracked electrical outlet cover, but that it took inspectors more than 220 days to verify compliance. And the couple blamed city staff for that. At a meeting this week, the city attorney told commissioners the couple had 20 violations that left the duplex below minimum standards of living. He also says staff did not cause delays, and the couple's fines have nothing to do with the line in the city's adopted budget, expecting a huge increase in lien and fine collection, while directing staff to, quote, seek strategies to reduce expenses and or create new revenue opportunities.
I'm not even sure where that phrase came from, a strategy to increase revenue. I've not seen it, so
it's in the 25 budget.
I can imagine every government has a strategy to increase revenue. Now, whether or not that has anything to do with code enforcement, not that I'm aware of.
And the Bordeaux say they're not sure what to do next. The city attorney says they can meet with him to discuss reducing the fines. Commissioners have also agreed to buy software that will improve code compliance efficiency and also bring more transparency. In other news, a collection of the historically black fraternities and sororities in Miami-Dade County, known as the Divine Nine, got a big congressional earmark to help preserve black history and culture. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson was on hand to deliver $1 million to the Divine Nine, as they are called. She helped secure the funding from Congress. It'll be used to renovate and upgrade fraternity and sorority houses at those historically black Greek organizations. Before the ceremony, I talked to the Congresswoman, but she says it's more important than ever now to protect African American history.
I am the author of the African American history for the state of Florida and for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and it's under attack. So last year, I put in a bid to get an earmark so that I can help these Divine Nine members build safe spaces for our children to teach them about our history, because it's being whitewashed, and I was not going to stand for that.
Why do you think it's important that these organizations spearhead that effort?
I think it's important because they have a mission, and the mission was given to them by their founders, and that's all we have. These are our black organizations, so they have a responsibility to preserve our black history. It's being whitewashed, and we do not want it to be extinct. We want our children to know that African Americans built this nation. African American men built the White House. They built the Capitol. They built all the monuments in Washington, and we want our children to know that.
Why is it important that not just black folks know black history?
Everybody must know, and when it's in the textbooks, it's every child in the school learns the black history. And I think what is so important is the fact that they're raining in on us. That is the message. That is the issue. Why our history? Have you heard any conversation about anyone else's history being erased?
And why do you think that is?
I think it has a lot to do with white supremacy, and that's what we're up against. And we have a responsibility not to complain, not to whine, but to find solutions. And that's what we're doing here today.
Well, up next on Miami Life, meet a man who preaches the gospel in a most unique way.
And that is the salvation of our souls. There's a day coming where we will stand before God in all of his glory. I'm talking about the one that rises and sets the sun each and every day.
His pulpit is the streets of Broward County. The story surrounding this street preacher coming up. Also, why a popular weight loss drug could also be the key to help you sleep better at night. The details when Miami Life returns. Welcome back to Miami Life. Weight loss drugs known as GLP-1s are booming in popularity right now. Nearly 12% of all Americans have taken them. Originally developed for diabetes and weight management, other off-label uses are becoming more common. And one of them is to treat sleep apnea. The FDA, in fact, recently approved the first medication for that use. Here is CBS News Miami anchor Lauren Pastrana.
Sleep. It's often considered the key to good health and well-being.
The sleep was more solid, more deep, a deeper sleep than anything else.
Owen Wild is getting more and better sleep now that his sleep apnea is under control, thanks to his CPAP machine and tirzepatide, also known as Zepbound or Mounjaro, the same drug helping millions lose weight and battle diabetes.
And I've been on the tirzepatide probably 4 months now.
And you've noticed more weight loss in that time, or has it helped you kind of stay steady?
You know, I think it's a combination that, you know, the first chunk was always the easiest chunk. So for me, it is doing all the little things all the time the right way.
The FDA recently approved tirzepatide for treatment of obstructive sleep apnea, which occurs when a person stops breathing while sleeping.
I like to say sleep is important because being awake is important, right? It has significant effects on our cognitive function.
Dr. Samuel Gurovich is a pulmonologist and sleep physician at Cleveland Clinic, Florida in Weston.
When you go to sleep, everything relaxes, and that includes the muscle tone that controls the back of the throat. And for people who are predisposed to this, whether it's just how they're built genetically, weight plays a role in many patients as well, that back of the throat overly relaxes and can even collapse when you're sleeping, and you're basically choking on your own back of the throat.
Dr. Gurovich isn't surprised the drug is helping his sleep apnea patients.
There's nothing magical about this medication as it relates to sleep apnea, other than that it can cause weight loss. So as those patients lost weight, their sleep apnea also got better.
Wild says he hasn't experienced the side effects sometimes associated with GLP-1s like gastrointestinal issues or headaches, but he has noticed an improvement in his overall quality of life.
It's not a magic bullet, so I've got to be really cautious of all of the aspects of health and nutrition and exercise, but I definitely know that this is it does help. It does make it easier.
The FDA approval of tirzepatide for sleep apnea could make the drug more accessible and affordable to those who need it for this purpose. You may have heard there was a shortage of GLP-1s, but earlier this year, the FDA also removed tirzepatide from the list of drugs in short supply. Lauren Pastrana, CBS News, Miami.
Lauren, thank you very much. This week's person of interest is a young man who found a new path through religion. I met him one day while he was in Margate spreading the faith to anybody who would listen. Here's his story.
Helping people is a regular part of William Torres's day.
I'm a biomedical technician. We help the direct patient care, the nurses in charge. We help all those who are direct patient care technicians get through treatment with supplies, with devices that are needed to calibrate and verify the machines are within perimeters. It is a fulfilling job to see people that are in need of a treatment that would get them through life, that would give them hope to be able to live a sustainable life, to see them come in and be able to walk out to live another day of life.
But once he's clocked out of his 9-to-5 job, Torres heads to his other calling, preaching on the streets of Broward County.
Father, I pray today as I stand here with my brother, that you would pour out your glory, that you would make your kingdom known right here on this corner as it is in heaven. Lord, I pray today that you would baptize us in your spirit and speak through us in such a way that all those who would hear our voice today would come to the saving knowledge of your Son, Jesus. I'm out here proclaiming the gospel, sharing the good news. I wasn't raised in the church. I wasn't raised by church goers, but I have encountered the Lord in a very strong way, in such a strong way that I've recognized the least I can do is spread the gospel. And that is the salvation of our souls. There's a day coming where we will stand before God in all of his glory. I'm talking about the one that rises and sets the sun each and every day.
As a teen, Torres found himself in trouble and landed in jail. He says finding God saved his life.
15 years ago, I was 17, and unfortunately, I was a teen of bad habits that led me down a very young criminal career path. I ended up facing some charges that led me to serving some time. Everyone who knew me at the age of 17 would agree that God has done something divine in my life. There's no other explanation. And the Lord's led me out here, and I asked him, why did you bring me out here? There are many out here. And there was a man that once told me, said, people want a building that they would call a church, but God has put you out here and made the streets your church.
Torres believes he is making a difference as a street preacher, spreading his message from his portable pulpit.
You think like people are just passing by. They're not. They're listening. They're listening more than you think.
She drove by, and she hasn't seen me in a while, but when she drove by today and she heard my voice, she knew that she had to pull over as an act of obedience to God. So she got some water. She told me that, You know, I'm bold, all glory to God, to be out here, to don't stop. People are listening. Even when I think people aren't listening, people are listening, and she's one of them. Where there is mercy, where there is grace, where there is preparation for the day that you will stand before him. William, nice to meet you, brother. We're just out here spreading the gospel. Hallelujah. How old are you? It just so happens that he's using me in this way. There's many giftings, there's many titles and positions in the church. God's decided to use me in this way.
I want to thank CBS News Miami photographer Adam Spunt for capturing William's story. Still ahead on Miami Life, you're going to meet a lady who left her career in hospitality to become a teacher. See how she's making a big difference in her students' lives. That's next. Well, you know, sometimes a big career change can make a big difference in the lives of others. Such is the case for a teacher who has been making a big impact on students at Palmetto Middle School. CBS News Miami's Elliot Rodriguez tells us her story.
There's our example of a pyramid, and you have some on your papers.
Meet the Rookie Teacher of the Year at Palmetto Middle School. Amanda Burns is in her second year as a math teacher after spending 20 years in the restaurant business.
My degree is in hospitality management, and I worked with Shake Shack for 6 years and other restaurants before that. So yes, my real, my career until recently was specifically in restaurant management.
But Burns wanted a change. She found out about the nonprofit Achieve Miami and their Teacher Accelerator program. TAP is addressing South Florida's chronic teacher shortage by helping college graduates in other professions change careers and become teachers. Leslie Miller Seance founded Achieve Miami 10 years ago. TAP was launched in 2023.
The Teacher Accelerator program really came to being as a response to the major teacher crisis that we are feeling across the country. We found ourselves immersed in so many of our communities and noticing that we had schools where there were so many classrooms without a teacher.
In the past 2 years, TAP has placed some 200 teachers in local schools, with another 200 expected to join the teaching ranks in the fall. Trainees take a one-semester undergraduate education course, followed by a summer internship before landing a full-time teaching job.
We wanted smart people, passionate people, people who cared about what they did, but they might not have known exactly how to become teachers.
For me, the biggest thing was the support system that I got out of TAP, right? I came out of that with an education base, with colleagues, even if they weren't at my school. So for me, that was a huge piece of the confidence, right? They helped me develop my own confidence to be able to do that.
TAP turned out to be a perfect fit for Amanda, who wanted a job with better hours than the restaurant business so she could spend more time with her family, while at the same time working with young people, watching them learn and grow.
One of my students was building a shape, and when it came together and he had taken the surface net and it actually made a 3D shape, the look on his face was like, and for me, that's why I'm here every day. I'm here because those moments where you see the click it's just such that's the moment. That's why I love what I do.
Looks like she found the click too. Stay right there. Miami Life's coming right back. All right, let's hear what the Miami Life audience has to say about some of our recent stories. Regarding news that temporary protected status, or TPS, have been revoked for some 350,000 Venezuelans in the U.S., one viewer did not have much sympathy, writing, quote, "They are for Trump, and this is what they voted for." And our story on the enormous code violation fines that some Lauderdale Lakes property owners are now dealing with had some people fired up. One person wrote, "Code violations that high are insane, and is the property even worth that amount?" Another said it's time for lawmakers to take action, saying the state legislature needs to pass a restricting code enforcement fine law. We love to hear from our audience. Keep sending us your comments and feedback at cbsmiami.com. That is going to do it for this week's Miami Life episode. Don't forget, we'll see you every Thursday for Miami Life at 6:30 on the stream. You can also watch all Miami Life episodes on demand on our YouTube channel. I'm Jim Barry. Hope to see you next time.